The darkness in El Salvador runs deep, deeper than most people realize. I know because I lived it. My name is Carlos Hernandez. I'm 46 years old now, but my story begins in the shadows of my childhood, in a small brick house on the outskirts of San Salvador, where the scent of my mother's pupusas filled the air, and the sound of old Latin songs drifted from the radio. It should have been a simple life, a happy childhood, but even then, I knew something was different. I saw things other children didn't see, shadows that moved when they shouldn't, whispers in empty rooms, dark figures watching from corners. My mother would cross herself when I told her. "It's just your imagination, Mijo," she'd say. But I knew better. Even at 6 years old, I knew. The darkness was real. It was waiting, watching. Our neighborhood was deeply religious. Crosses hung in every window. Saints' pictures decorated every wall. But underneath all that faith, something else was stirring. The old ways never really died in El Salvador. They just went underground, hidden behind Catholic facades. Brujos and curanderos still practiced their craft. In back rooms and hidden places, I was drawn to their world, like a moth to a deadly flame. It started small, a conversation here, a whispered secret there. The local shop that sold candles for saints also sold other things, darker things, when no one was watching. I was 12 when I first stepped inside, the smell of copal incense thick in the air, Santeria symbols hidden behind Catholic icons. The old woman behind the counter watched me, her eyes knowing, waiting. She knew what I was seeking, even before I did. "You have the gift," she said. Her words changed everything. The gift, she called it, the ability to see beyond the veil, to touch the other side. I didn't understand then how those words would seal my fate, how they would lead me down a path from which few return. The old woman became my first teacher, though not my last. She taught me about candles and herbs, about spirits and their names, about power and how to grasp it. Each lesson drew me deeper into a world of shadows and secrets. My parents never knew. They thought I was studying after school. In a way, I was just not the subjects they imagined. The darkness grew stronger, as did my abilities. I could feel the spirits now, not just see them. They whispered to me, promised me things, power, knowledge, control. I was 13 when I performed my first ritual, simple by later standards. But it worked. I made a school bully trip and break his arm, just by willing it. The power was intoxicating. I wanted more. High school brought new opportunities, new friends who shared my interests. We found each other like magnets, drawn together by our darkness. We started with Ouija boards, thinking we were just playing games, but the spirits were real, and they were waiting for you. Each session grew more intense, the planchette moving faster, the messages getting darker. We learned to call specific entities. They knew things they shouldn't know, told us secrets we couldn't verify, until they came true. One by one, we fell deeper, into the abyss. The spirits became our guides, our friends, our masters. We met in abandoned buildings, in graveyards at midnight, in basements where the air felt thick, with something more than darkness. We learned to channel power, to bend reality to our will. Small things at first, making lights flicker, moving objects without touching them, reading thoughts. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. The spirits demanded more, and we were eager to give it. By 16, I was known in certain circles. People came to me for help, for curses, for power. I gave them what they wanted, for a price, not money, something more valuable, their connection to the light. Each person I helped stepped further into darkness and brought others with them, like a spiritual pyramid scheme, but with souls as currency. The local priests knew something was wrong. They could feel it in their churches. Attendance was dropping. Young people were disappearing into the night, but they were powerless to stop it. Their prayers seemed weak. against our growing strength. We laughed at their processions, their holy water, their blessed metals. We had found something stronger, or so we thought. The darkness had us completely. By my 18th birthday, I was no longer the person I had been. The innocent child was gone, replaced by something else, something hungry, something powerful, something damned. My parents saw the change, but couldn't understand it. They sent me to priests for counseling, to doctors for evaluation. Nothing helped. Nothing could help. I was beyond their reach, beyond their understanding. The spirits had become my family now, my teachers, my masters, and they were preparing me for something bigger, something darker than anything I had known before. The final initiation was approaching, the point of no return, where I would give myself completely to the darkness that had claimed me. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of a journey into hell itself, and the price I would pay would be higher than I could imagine. The darkness was calling, and I answered, without hesitation, without fear, without knowing that I was walking into the darkest chapter of my life. The initiation took place on a moonless night in an abandoned church outside the city. The irony wasn't lost on us. Desecrating holy ground, 20 of us gathered there, each seeking ultimate power. The air was thick with incense, and something else, something ancient, something evil. Black candles lined the walls, their flames casting twisted shadows that seemed to dance with minds of their own. The head of our order stood before us, dressed in black robes, his eyes reflecting the candlelight, like burning coals in the darkness. Tonight, he said, you transcend humanity. We had prepared for months, fasting from all things holy, performing smaller rituals, building up to this moment. The ceremony began at midnight, with the sacrifice of a black goat, its blood used to paint symbols on our foreheads and hands. Ancient words were spoken, in languages long forgotten. Each syllable seemed to tear at reality, opening doors that should stay closed. I felt the change beginning as the dark energy filled me, my humanity slipping away, replaced by something else, something inhuman. The pain was excruciating. Every cell in my body screamed. As the transformation took hold, I could feel my bones shifting, my consciousness expanding into realms of darkness I had never known existed. Then he appeared, the one we had called Satan himself, wearing a black suit and hat. His presence was overwhelming. The air grew cold. Time seemed to stop. He spoke to each of us in voices that shattered minds, promising power beyond imagination. If we would only serve him completely, utterly, forever. I pledged myself without hesitation, signed his book in blood, accepted his mark, and felt the last traces of my humanity burn away. The power that filled me was incredible. I could feel the darkness flowing through my veins like liquid night. I could command spirits now, bend reality at will, cause pain with a thought, create chaos with a whisper. The world became my playground, and humans my toys. I started small at first, breaking up relationships, causing accidents, creating conflict. But soon that wasn't enough. The darkness demanded more, always more. I began targeting churches, disrupting services, causing doubt among believers. It was so easy. A whispered suggestion here, a planted doubt there, watching faith crumble like houses built on sand. The other initiates and I formed a powerful coven, working together to spread darkness across the city. We could cause storms at will, make crops wither in the fields, send plagues of insects, create fear and chaos. People began to whisper about us in frightened tones, crossing themselves when we passed by, but their fear only made us stronger, fed our power, increased our influence. We were unstoppable, or so we thought. Then came the night, That changed everything. We had targeted a small church on the outskirts of town, known for its powerful prayers. We decided to show them what real power looked like. 20 of us surrounded the building during their evening service, chanting curses, summoning darkness. The lights inside flickered. The walls trembled. Fear began to spread. But then something unexpected happened. An old woman stood up in the middle of the chaos, her voice clear and strong. In the end, aim of Jesus. We laughed at first. Such simple words against our powerful magic. But then we felt it, a force like nothing we'd known. Pure light, pure power, pure love. It hit us like a tidal wave, knocking us to the ground, shattering our spells, breaking our concentration. For the first time, I felt fear, real fear. The old woman kept praying, each word like a sword, cutting through our darkness, exposing our weakness. We fled that night, confused and shaken, our confidence broken, our power questioned. But that was just the beginning of the cracks in our armor, the first doubt in our perfect darkness. I tried to shake it off, to convince myself it was a fluke, but something had changed inside me. Questions began to surface. Doubts began to grow. The darkness that once felt like power now felt like chains. I saw the price of my choices, in the faces of those I'd hurt, in the lives I'd destroyed, in the souls I corrupted. The power no longer satisfied. The rituals felt empty, the promises hollow, the darkness suffocating. But I was in too deep, too committed, too marked, too damned. Or so I thought, until the night. Everything changed. Again, it happened at one of our major rituals, deep in the mountains outside San Salvador, where the air was thin and the darkness was thick. We had gathered for a ceremony to increase our power, to bind ourselves more deeply to the forces of evil. The sacrifices had been made, the blood had been spilled, the chants had been spoken, the spirits had been called. But something was different. The darkness wasn't responding. The power wasn't flowing. The spirits seemed distant. Then she appeared, a young woman, walking into our circle, fearless and calm. She wore simple clothes, no magical protection, no spiritual artifacts, just a small cross around her neck. "This has to stop," she said, her voice soft but firm, like steel wrapped in silk, like truth wrapped in love. We tried to curse her, to strike her down, to break her spirit. Nothing worked. She just stood there, looking at each of us, with eyes full of compassion, and something else, something that burned, like holy fire, like pure light, like love. "Jesus loves you," she said. Such simple words, but they cut through the darkness, like lightning through night. I felt something break inside me, a wall I had built, a shield of darkness, crumbling to dust. Memories flooded back of who I used to be, before the darkness, before the power. I remembered my mother's prayers, my father's blessing, the peace I once knew, the light I once had. The others felt it too. Some fled in terror, some fell to their knees, some screamed in rage. But I just stood there, trembling, breaking, remembering. The young woman approached me, no fear in her eyes, only love, only hope. She reached out her hand. "Come home," she said. "It's not too late. You're not too far gone." I wanted to believe her, wanted to take her hand, but the darkness inside me fought back hard. Physical pain ripped through me as the spirits rebelled. They weren't going to let go. Without a fight, I fell to the ground, convulsing, screaming, dying. The woman knelt beside me, her hand on my forehead, her voice raising in prayer, her faith unwavering. The battle raged inside me, light against darkness, freedom against bondage, life against death. Hours passed like centuries as the war continued. In my soul, in my spirit, the demons screamed. The darkness fought. The chains tightened. The power resisted. But something stronger was at work, something more powerful than all my magic. The love of God poured through her prayers, breaking every chain, healing every wound. Dawn was breaking. When the battle ended, when the darkness fled, when the light won, I lay there exhausted, empty of power, empty of darkness, but somehow full. The young woman helped me up, her face radiant with joy. "Welcome back," she said, "to the land of the living." I looked around with new eyes. The mountain was beautiful in the morning light, no longer dark and threatening. But this was just the beginning. The hardest part was yet to come, learning to live again, learning to love again. The coven wouldn't let me go easily. They sent threats. They sent curses. They sent demons. But something was different now. I had a shield they couldn't break, a power they couldn't match, the love of Christ. The young woman, Maria, became my guide, my mentor, my sister in faith. She taught me how to pray, how to read the Bible, how to trust God, how to live in the light. The transformation wasn't instant. Old habits died hard. Old powers lingered. Old temptations returned. But each day brought new strength, new hope, new life, new purpose. I learned that true power doesn't come from control or manipulation or dark forces. It comes from surrender, from service, from sacrifice, from love. The journey wasn't easy. The cost was high. The battles were fierce. The victories hard-won. But I was no longer alone, no longer lost, no longer damned, no longer dark. The hardest part was facing my victims, those I had hurt with my dark powers, those whose lives I had destroyed, those whose souls I had damaged. Maria encouraged me to make amends, to seek forgiveness where possible, to offer restitution, to speak truth into lies. Some slammed doors in my face. Some cursed my name. Some threatened violence. Some broke down in tears. But a few listened. A few forgave. A few found healing. A few found hope. Each conversation was different. Each story unique. Each wound deep. Each healing miraculous. I visited the mother, whose child I had cursed, who had spent years in and out of hospitals. She listened quietly, as I confessed my sin, as I begged forgiveness, as I offered to pray. To my amazement, she didn't reject me. She took my hands, and we prayed together. Her child was healed that day, not by my power, but by God's mercy, by true love's touch. I found the businessman, whose company I had destroyed through dark manipulation and spiritual attack. He was living in poverty now, his family scattered, his dreams shattered, his faith tested. I told him everything, how I had targeted him, why I had done it, what did it cost him. He sat in silence for a long time. Then he spoke words that changed my life. "I forgive you," he said, "because Christ forgave me. Now help me rebuild what darkness destroyed." We worked together for months, restoring what was lost, rebuilding what was broken, healing what was wounded. His business rose again, stronger than before, built on faith this time, not just human strength. The hardest visit was to the young pastor, whose church I had attacked, whose congregation I had scattered. He was still there, still faithful, still praying, still believing. His church was small now, just a handful of people, but their faith was strong. Their love was pure. I expected anger. I found compassion. I expected rejection. I found acceptance. "We've been praying for you," he said, "all these years, waiting for this day, believing for your salvation." His words broke me completely. Their faithful prayers had helped bring me out of darkness. The church began to grow again, not through manipulation, but through genuine love and transformed lives. People who had left began to return, bringing others with them, seeking true healing. The darkness that had once seemed so powerful, now seemed weak against such love. But the enemy wasn't finished. The attacks intensified. The spiritual warfare reached new levels. Dark forces came against me. In my dreams, in my thoughts, in my daily life, they whispered lies about my past, about my future, about my worth. They sent old friends to tempt me back, to offer power, to promise revenge. But something was different now. I had new weapons, new armor, new strength. The Bible became my sword, prayer my shield, worship my battle cry, faith my victory. Maria stood with me through every battle, teaching me to fight in a new way, not with curses, but with blessings, not with hatred, but with love. The old woman from that church, the one whose prayers had first shown me true power, she became my mentor too, teaching me deeper truths about spiritual warfare, about God's authority. The enemy is strong, she said, but Jesus is stronger. The darkness is real, but the light is greater. She taught me how to pray with authority, how to stand firm in spiritual battles, how to recognize the enemy's tactics, how to overcome through Christ's power. The transformation continued day by day, battle by battle, victory by victory. 1 year after my conversion, I stood before a different congregation, not to attack this time, but to share my testimony. The church was packed. People had heard about the dark sorcerer who found Jesus. I shared everything, the depths of my darkness, the power of God's love, the reality of transformation. As I spoke, something powerful happened. The Holy Spirit moved through the congregation. People began to weep as hidden things came to light in their own lives. Some confessed involvement in the occult, in witchcraft, in dark practices. Others brought forward their charms and amulets, their occult books, their magical items. We built a fire outside the church and burned it all like in the book of Acts. The flames rose high into the night sky as chains were broken and souls set free. That night marked the beginning of a new chapter in my journey of redemption. God began to use me to help others trapped in darkness. As I had been, people saw me out now, not for curses, but for deliverance and healing. I could recognize the signs of occult bondage, of spiritual oppression, of demonic influence. But more importantly, I could point them to the deliverer, Jesus Christ. Young people especially were drawn to my testimony. They saw hope for their own freedom. Many had dabbled in the occult through games and entertainment. They didn't realize the doors they'd opened, the chains they'd accepted, the darkness they'd embraced. I warned them about the subtle traps, the innocent-seeming games, the hidden dangers, about Ouija boards disguised as toys, about harmless spells found on the internet, about modern witchcraft packaged as empowerment, about dark powers marketed as light. The enemy is clever, more than ever, making darkness seem attractive, especially to the young, who hunger for power, for meaning, for spiritual reality. But I could testify to the emptiness, the bondage, the destruction, and point them to true power, true freedom, true life. My testimony spread beyond San Salvador to other cities, other countries. Churches invited me to share my story, to teach about spiritual warfare. I spoke in schools, warning students about occult dangers hidden in plain sight, in movies, in music, in games, in social media. Some laughed, some mocked, some rejected, some listened. But wherever I went, lives were changed, souls were saved, chains were broken. The enemy fought back with renewed fury. sending threats and attacks. Old colleagues from the dark world try to stop me from speaking out. They sent curses, death threats, spiritual attacks, physical dangers. But God's protection was stronger. His purpose, unstoppable. Each attack only confirmed the truth of my message, the reality of us, spiritual warfare, the power of Christ's victory. Today I stand as a witness to God's transforming power, to His endless mercy, to His amazing grace. The darkness that once bound me has been defeated. The powers that controlled me have been broken. My hands, once used for curses, now bring blessing. My voice, once speaking death, now proclaims life. The knowledge I gained in the dark world now serves to expose the enemy's tactics. I travel across America now, sharing my testimony, warning the comfortable, encouraging the broken. This spiritual war has not ended. It's intensifying. In these last days, the enemy is desperate, more subtle than ever, packaging darkness as enlightenment. But God is moving too, more powerfully than ever, setting captives free, transforming lives. I see it in every service, in every altar call, in every prayer meeting, in every deliverance. Young people running to Jesus, breaking free from bondage, finding true power in surrender to Christ. Former witches and warlocks laying down their powers, choosing the narrow path, following the true light. Families being restored, generations being healed, curses being broken, blessings being released. The battle rages on, but the victory is sure. The darkness is strong, but the light is stronger. I know this truth, not from books, not from theory, but from experience. I've seen both sides, lived in both realms, wielded both powers, known both masters, and I can testify, without any doubt, that Jesus Christ is Lord of all. His power is real. His love is stronger. His blood cleanses. His grace transforms. No one is too far gone. No soul is too dark. No sin is too great. No chain too strong. For His saving grace, for His mighty power, for His endless love, for His perfect light. This is my story. This is my song. This is my testimony. This is my truth. From darkness to light, from bondage to freedom, from death to life, from Satan to Christ. May it bring hope to the hopeless, light to the lost, freedom to the bound, and may it always point to the one true God who can transform the darkest heart into a vessel of light, into a testimony of grace, into a witness of truth, into a child of God, for His glory alone, forever and ever. Amen. Yendi.